is it possible to create a build that would put every single boon on yourself, by yourself, with no allies? Well, as you can see, yes, it's possible to have all of them and to have them in a complete loop. Now, when I created this build and started playing it in general PvE, I soon realized something. This build is not fun to play. It's a gimmicky build. But let me show you what I mean with the example of resistance. To have resistance in the loop, we need skill number 7, there. This skill interrupts the attack and lowers DPS, but it is required if you want a loop of resistance. Resistance also needed the relic and a specific heal skill. Well, we're going to remove all this and use this only as a base to create a good, fun build to play for PvE. There aren't many differences between what you just saw and the final build itself. We have two skills here. This one obviously pretty much a classic for any general build or DPS build with a Guardian. We have this skill, which is definitely the best heal skill in PvE. And we also have another relic, which is the Relic of Zakiros. Both this relic and the heal skill increase the survivability considerably. Now, we also had to make a compromise, and you see we have 90% boon duration instead of 100% compared to the full boon loop build that you just saw. 90% is required because we still want to maintain the loop of stability with this skill and this one. Please note that the stability will be on the whole group, so it's what I would call a good plug-in build, which means it can do anything solo, and you will see a solo fractal soon. But it's also very precious in a group with, of course, stability, but over boons too, and a bit of cleans too. As you can see, alongside the greatsword, we'll be using the longbow, which allows for more versatility and is not at all a problem when it comes to have a clean rotation. There you go, cleaning groups, fast. If you do forget to use stability in a complete loop, it's not a problem because both skills that give stability actually also break stun. The fifth skill on the greatsword can be used, of course, to grab your opponents. Usually it's more used because it deals damage over time, but we're going to use it for the grab. Sometimes we'll just let it, deal a bit of damage, then grab to get the best out of it. It's important to grab because we'll use a sigil that triggers when you do stun an opponent. Sometimes versatility when it comes to range will make a huge difference. For example here, fighting with or without those threats is a completely different story. Now time to unleash the damage on the boss before we can enter. It's not what I would call a high DPS build, but it still does pretty nice, and seeing only critical damage is really satisfying. Keep in mind that this is not made as, let's say, a DPS for raids or something like this. This is for solo content. Dispatching groups of trash mobs is actually pretty easy. You'll see there. This is a typical combo. Now this is probably the hardest part to solo in this fractal. But yeah, we'll be fine, especially with stability. Stability is often overlooked in PvE, but in this case it's really necessary. There are tons of ballistas that can stun lock you. As you're going to see, it's not going to stun lock me, but hey, boom. But now, we're fine. We can just go on doing some damage. Zakiros Relic will be really useful there. See the health going up. Look at the boons. We're just going to clear all of them easily. Switching from the greatsword to the bow is really one of the keys of mastering this build. So if you see you're staying all the time with the same weapon, maybe it's time to switch. But maybe not. Sometimes you do want to stick, for example, on the bow if you want to use only ranged attacks. Another classic burst on trash mobs. Okay, boss time now. And even though it's not a DPS build, it's definitely going to do the job. Do not hesitate to go outside of AoE damage. You can still hit with the bow and with Sword of Justice. If there's too much damage, even with Zakiros and the heal skill, you have a lot of mobility. So use it. Now let's talk about the stuff and perks, the build itself. So we are using full Diviner stats, except for Marauder stats there and there. As you can see, we use a superior rune of Fireworks for the boon duration, of course. On the bow, we will have a Sigil of Battle, gain 5 stacks of might for 12 seconds. That will be a lot more than that. When swapping to this weapon, there's the same one on the greatsword. This helps to reach and maintain the 25. Sigil of Rage. We could use a Sigil of Quickness because we do have 2 ways to stun, here and here on the longbow, but this one will not always trigger the stun if the foe is not moving, and this one knocks back. And sometimes you don't want to do that because we don't want to push foes outside of our allies' damage. So we will just use a Sigil of Rage. This is much necessary to maintain quickness. There we do have the same Sigil of Battle, like I said, but also Sigil of Celerity. Gain quickness of 5 seconds after disabling a foe. Like I mentioned previously, you will want to use this not only for damage over time, but also to trigger the Sigil of Celerity. Perks. Okay, so Virtues, Radiance, and WIILBENDER. I will not detail everything, I will just show you the perks and talk about a few key perks. Okay, here we have damage. Here we have ways to give boons on allies, which helps being a plug-in build. And for some loops like protection. Here we have something that will cleanse. Now you may think that it's not necessary because we're talking PvE, so maybe you will want to use this. Strike damage dealt is increased 10% after activating a virtue. It would basically trigger all the time, so if you want a plus 10% damage instead of cleanse, you can use it. However, you have 2 charges here of F2, and you will cleanse 3 conditions on you and your allies around up to 5, as usual. And you have 2 charges of it. So that's quite something. If I do not like to play without cleanse at all, but their conditions remove 3, that's a very nice addition for a solo build. Same thing here. F3 will give a lot of things, but also stability, as you can see. And it will give stability to your allies as well. It's much necessary for the loop with Stand Your Ground. Here we have a bit of everything. Skill number 1 is recharged or renewed when you kill a foe. Obviously, if you have played WIILBENDER before, you know how extremely powerful this can be. You will just spam this. It does good damage. It can charge might, give you swiftness and resolution as well. It's just a very nice perk. There are just a bit of extra damage, extra damage, extra damage. You will have a 100% critical chance because of, where is it? It's somewhere here. Yeah, voila. Critical chance increase 10% when you hit a foe with burning. They will be burning all the time. We don't intend to deal much damage with burning, but we will apply it and we will trigger the last 10% we need to reach 100% critical there. Because see, we have here 39, basically 40. Some parts are still exotic equipment, so it would be tailored to be 40%. And if I have both resolution and fury, it would be 90%. So you reach 100 with this. There we have a very important skill. Also helps a lot for critical chance, plus 25% when you have resolution, and it will pulse might as well. So this is most definitely something you want. It will also allow us to use some draconic stats there. As I said, full diviner, but draconic here and marauder here. WIILBENDER, you know about it. Increased power. If you do want a solution for more survivability, but which most definitely should not be necessary, you have this. Because the only times you will go down is if first you are stubborn and you stay in huge damage, or 2, you are taken by surprise, you do not have protection on, and as you can see, we don't have that many health points. So if you are taken by surprise, it can definitely be a problem. But if you are in combat and you analyze the situation well, this heal skill and the relic of Zakiros will most definitely be enough, and you will not need extra heal. So this is the way to go. There we have a way to help with loop of protection. Resolution is overkill, we don't need it. But more resistance, it's kind of a relic of the time the build had full resistance, but other possibilities, even though they may be interesting, this one is still my favorite. But you can maybe explore a bit there. And Phoenix Protocol gain alacrity and regeneration when Rizzle's effect triggers. In other words, let's look at F2. It will give you alacrity, as you can see. But every time those flames touch an enemy, or enemies, you will gain extra alacrity. And this is how you completely loop it. Because you see alacrity on activation, almost 10 seconds, but also alacrity on trigger, 2 seconds. So if you basically use it as a dash, let's say there's a group of foes here, I use it as a dash, it triggers for 1-2 seconds, and then we're moving on to something else, and we'll remove them, and you have alacrity as a complete loop unless you voluntarily mess it up. Well, now it's time for a jar to have a beer, so thanks for watching, and see you around. Bye!